I mean, this one is just we're gonna get into our favorite moments from like just the Star Wars movies and like in general. Your favorite moment, the moment that you like always go back to when like whenever somebody speaks of Star Wars, you think of this moment. Yeah, for me, I think it's kind of harkening back to kind of a little bit what we talked about, and I think it's a mixture of like the old and the new, and by that, and the scene I'm talking about is probably the scene at the end of Rogue One, in which like this is from the Disney Star Wars, yet it made you appreciate and like really feel the depth of Darth Vader and like who he was. And it's the scene where Darth Vader pretty much take out the resistance like a boss. Like there's I can't tell you the feeling. I can't describe the feeling I got like in the movie theater watching after I just saw this amazing movie, a movie that I love. I'm thinking like if it ends right now, I am very satisfied. And then you just see them on this ship, and you hear him, and then you see that lightsaber go, and you just like, oh shit, like what he finna do? And then all those stories, the reason Vader was such a prominent villain or prominent character all through the 80s, 90s, and like whatever, it's like you actually got to see why. Like this guy, like you run into him, you don't stand a chance. And it made me not only appreciate what that Star Wars film did, it made me appreciate a lot of the other stuff that came before. Because that was my real introduction into the Darth Vader in which how I look at him now. Like, if it wasn't for that, I kind of probably would just looked at him like, yo, he's just this old guy who, you know what I'm saying, had this weak ass lightsaber fight with Obi-Wan. But like after this, I'm like, every time I go back and look at any of those films, I see that Vader, the Vader that I saw at the end of Rogue One. I see that Vader now. You know? So it made me like, and like since he's like the central part of Star Wars, like in the prequels it was Anakin, and the original trilogy it was him, and even in the new Disney stuff, it's like they're still always gonna bring up Vader. Like Kylo Ren wants to be like Vader. It's always because of him. And after seeing that scene right there, it made me be like, yeah, I see why you want to be like this guy. This guy was the real deal.
Can't argue with that. It's a fantastic scene. Like, and I feel like for me, I go back and forth between like Vader, Yoda, and I'll talk about like my favorite scene in the Star Wars movie. Like watching the original trilogy, right? Like you see Yoda, and you hear about these great things, and he's this Jedi Grandmaster, whatever the case may be. But you don't ever really get to see him do anything in the trilogy. I think he brings Luke's X-wing back up with the Force. Like you see that, but like as far as like his lightsaber skills, you don't get to see that. But in the prequels, you do. And my favorite scene is him fighting Dooku, and he walks out, the gate opens. He has his cane, as you see him do, and he throws the cane down and opens up his road and calls his lightsaber over. And then proceeds to do all these jumping flips and this acrobatic fight with Dooku. And you see him use the Force a little bit. And then he proceeds, after the fight, Dooku kind of gets away, to call his cane back and goes back to walking. Like, I don't think it's like a huge, like, effective, like, doesn't really have a whole lot to do with the main story at heart, but like getting to see Yoda in action, we've heard kind of all these great things about him in like the prequel movie, who he was. That's probably one of my most enjoyable moments of like all of the Star Wars films. You get to see him in action a couple times, but that particular fight was like one of my favorites to see.
Yeah, that was a great moment. That was a fantastic moment. Angelo?
Oh, the Yoda, I would say is one of my favorite scenes from the old ones. But like the newer ones, I have to give it to Kylo with the first one when he stops that laser. Yeah. No, not even Darth Vader did that. I give Kylo that. Not even Darth Vader did that. But when he did that, gave his speech and told him just kill everybody, and then he looks at Flynn and then flexes by letting it go. I mean, you can't top that in the new ones, bro. I also like the part where Kylo Ren, the Moore scene, and he just unloaded on Luke, and he's not even really there. I mean, he's casting a fucking hologram of himself with his mind clean across the fucking universe. You can't top that either. It's just a whole bunch of
stuff we've never seen before.
Right? Yeah, we've never seen it.
Yeah, those are things you don't see in the prequels or the Is it Grease over here? But
I think
that scene of at the end of Rogue One, where he comes out the lightsaber from the dark alley. That's just it, bro. You know what's going to happen, and they don't have to show you. They don't, but it's clear as day what happens.
Yeah. Oh, we see a lot of motherfuckers get killed because there was a moment he held the guy up with the Force while fighting others, and then walked by him and cut him in half. Yeah. So it's like, this guy's the real deal. I wish the Disney Star Wars films would have played with like that being able to like stop the blast a little bit more. I think we were talking about it yesterday. Like if you incorporate the two scenes that you're talking about, Angelo, which like him, Kylo Ren stopping the blast, and the Luke scene where like Kylo would like pretty much send everything at him, instead of Luke just like still standing there. I wish after the smoke cleared, like all the blasts was like right there, and like Luke had stopped all of them because he is that powerful. He is that powerful Jedi. And I think that would have been dope to like harken back to something amazing we saw in the first 5 minutes of The Force Awakens and put that in like The Last Jedi. Except those fans were just I feel like if J.J. Abrams probably would have been the one over there. He probably would have did something like that. I wouldn't need, because those two were like still like completely separate things. Go ahead, Fred. I mean, legit.
So basically, for me, I already mentioned my favorite moment was whenever Obi-Wan had to fight Anakin and then cut his limbs off because of the tension, the feeling that I correlate with that. Besides that moment, the other one, to me, that tied a bunch of different stories together, a bunch of movies together, was whenever Yoda came back in The Last Jedi. He came back as a Force ghost, called down the lightning on the tree. Dope as fuck. Reason I love it so much is that, one, I never thought I would see Yoda again, period. I never thought I'd see him again. He was done with Star Wars. I wasn't expecting him. So to me, it was a total surprise. Glad I got to see him one last time. And it ties back to what Obi-Wan said in A New Hope. You strike me down now, I'll come back more powerful than you can imagine. Yoda proved that. And plain, simple, those are just my two favorite Star Wars scenes. Just hands down. But as far as iconic Star Wars scenes, you can name so many. I mean, like, example, Death Star blowing up. When it comes to it, whenever the Clone Wars, whenever they're surrounded, it takes an attack, Mace taking down, Jango Fett's head. Yoda fighting Dooku. Like you can name so many great iconic Star Wars moments, but my two favorite are just those.
Yeah.
Another thing. Fred reminded me. Another thing I liked. Well, I say it, but it's gonna sound real fucked up. Is that I think it was in Rogue One where they launched the Death Star. Like they attacked the Death Star and they killed all of that whole fucking planet system.
Yeah.
Like you see people just looking at it and they know they've accepted it. This is it. There's nothing you can do. I mean, to me, that right there was fucking tragic. It was important too because like
you talking about when they destroyed when they destroyed multiple planets.
Yeah. No. In Rogue One, when they destroyed the city and they made a giant wave.
I think
you're talking about the star system. When they destroyed the star system.
Force Awakens.
Okay, gotcha.
And they just wiped out that whole planet system. Like to me, that's like this is why the Death Star should have been destroyed. Like you watch that, and you're like, well, yeah, Death Star needs to go. That's a problem.
It's like a space nuclear weapon. Yeah.
Star Killer Base.
Yeah.
Star Killer Base.
I think one thing we should take into account and think about is y'all talk about that Luke moment. This is also a man who cut himself off from the Force and was able to do that. Like, remember, they weren't able to find him because Luke cut himself off of the Force. So, like, other
He
Force
was rusty.
couldn't sense him. Like they, like he cut himself off the Force and then proceeded to project himself halfway across the galaxy. Like I think that's impressive in itself. Like this dude ain't been training. He cut off like the source of his powers and then like did something that we had never seen anybody do. Like we saw him like force project himself. And I think the other thing is like he force projected the version of himself that would mess with Kylo mentally the most. Because that was like the younger version of him that was training Kylo.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't think about that. You're right.
And Kylo hadn't seen it, so he didn't know what to expect. He didn't know, like, I don't know how this guy looks. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, that's something I really didn't think about it.
I thought that was. I think that's a pretty deep moment, like pretty tactical and like loose, like from Luke's point of view and what he did to do. I thought that was a great scene.